I am sitting here with MMA fighter Antonio Castillo Jr., fighter out of Canton, Ohio. Antonio, how you doing today?
What's up, my man? I appreciate you for coming out.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me as always. It's been a pleasure working with you so far.
Yeah, man, it's been fun.
Just want to dive right into this. I don't want to take up much of your time. I know it's been cut week. First, I'll ask, how's the cut been going? I know we're 2 days out from your fight. Everything on schedule?
Everything's good, man. Week's gone good. Got to come back home, finish the fight here in my hometown. This is my mom's crib, and she's got a whole downstairs for me and my team. No matter how many guys I have, we get to come here, drive out to practice, come right back, and we have everything at our access. So made the cut go really good. This has been my best cut to date so far. I'm 4 pounds out. So had a good workout this morning, and I was just telling my brother, just being in this, it's really secluded. I'm on my own. Besides me and my teammates here, my mom's got everything for me, so it's made the ride go smooth.
4 pounds on 2 days out is definitely easy work to do, so I would imagine that's going to be no problem at all.
It's normally about 15.
Yeah,
about
that's usually
15.
The last 2 days. You might actually be able to get in a couple meals as well,
Yeah.
and not have
for
to
sure.
zap
For
yourself too much. So
Yep.
you did mention your team. I've had a chance to meet with them yet. You have great teammates all around you, from all the way up into Bloomfield Hills all the way to down in Canton. So thank you for allowing me to sit in with some of those opportunities and get the full-on experience. So I gotta ask you, it's been a lot of years. You've been 7 fights on UFC promotions, fight cards. When's the call gonna come?
Man, bro, it's been a long grind. This is my 15th year in the sport. I went 15-0 as an amateur, fought my entire amateur career here, and I turned pro in 2010. I went 2-4, so I moved out to Canton. I got serious about it. My wife now is my manager, and I was in line to go to the UFC probably my second year of moving. That was like 10 plus years ago. So the call should have happened a long time ago. You know, I just started riding a roller coaster. I got a manager, and you know, it was one of those things where, I'll be real, if I would have listened to her and did the fights that she said to do, rather than get involved and say, no, I want to fight for this world title fight right now, I'd already made it in the UFC. But like I said, my guy upstairs, he's directing me. He landed this sport in my lap, and I trust him. I trust in his process, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So now that I've rode the roller coaster this far, I'm more in tune with myself and my training and my lifestyle than I ever have been my entire career. So getting to be able to get on the UFC Fight Pass shows with CES, FAC. I fought for actually CES boxing. It was in the COVID, you know, and that's when I started like my UFC Fight Pass run. I fought in there 7 times, and best of the best. I became a stepping stone when I was going up there. I would smash everybody at this level, and then I'd go up to the UFC Fight Pass level and not lose, just fumble the ball, feel the altitude of the fights, and you know, it's been a roller coaster, you know. So when's the call coming? This year and last year, I put on my best fights yet. I was ranked number 1 in Ohio at the featherweight division. Right now, they got me at number 3, but I already beat the guy that's ranked number 1 to get the number 1 spot. And I had a controversial fight with the number 2 ranked guy. I lost a split decision. It's my only loss since like announcing my comeback. Minus the Dana White show out in Boston with Chris Mattoon. That's my only loss. That's the only one that I've lost since coming back. And it's been the next fight.
And that was a hell of a great fight.
It's one of those things to where I've been in this game for 15 years, and like, I always wanted to fight the best, and for so long I was fighting the best, and when I go out and fight them, they go to the UFC. I fought Nick Newell on 5 days notice. He was 18-2. Went out there with the right game plan, struck to the short arm. He's only got 1 arm. That's my boy, by the way. So I could say things to the beast. I went out there and cracked him and was running my game plan, and then went to the ground. That's the little fumble that cost me the fight. He went to the Contender Series. Fought the next guy. He went to the UFC. Every single guy has gone to the show on my behalf. And I sat things down. I said, listen, Nicole, I trust you. I'm gonna get out your way now, and I'm gonna just do my job. And ever since then, we've been putting dub after dub after dub on the board. Like I said, minus the Dana White show, and we can just go right into that right now because like going into the Tobias fight, I knew that was on the line. But I also knew it's gonna be 11 days after this fight. Well, I went through a war. Tobias knocked me out 4 times in round 1. Like, dropped my ass. Really should have finished me. But because I had it in here, like, you're not gonna finish me now. So he really should have finished me in that first round. And when I was able to weather the storm, come out in second, and I smashed him. I drowned him in his own blood, and he ended up tapping. Ever since that, I've been on a whole different level. Between my ears, all up in here. And it was that night we signed a contract for the Dana White show. That's in 11 days. I was 100% concussed going into that fight. That whole week, I was loopy. We barely made it to the show. We actually flew from here to New York City. Got to New York City, it was in the snowstorm. There were no flights and no rental cars. And I had like 6 hours to get to weigh-ins. Otherwise, the fight was off. My wife and a U-Haul, a box truck, bro.
Thinking outside the box.
Yes, a box truck, bro. I drove. Listen, no license. I don't give a fuck. No license. In the middle of a snowstorm, I drove. My wife sat on the medical box, and my coach sat next to me, and we jetted. Thank God we had a box truck because we were able to just float all the way. We made it just in time. They held the weigh-ins for us, so we made it an hour late and pretty good timing. There was guys still cutting. So they were like, how the hell did you make it here?
All gas, like, no brakes in the
all
U-Haul.
Gas, no brakes, bro. Like Marvin Harry, bro. That's exactly what it was. A ride, and it was just a journey to get there. And I was just on cloud 9 being there. You know, being around guys like Rob Font, Calvin Cater, Dana, Matt Serra, Dean Thomas, and fighting Chris Matuno. Like, after he just fought Sugar Sean.
It's just a big starstruck thing, and be honest. I mean, you can't train yourself.
No.
There's so much that goes into fighting that's not done inside of a gym. It's all mentality, and then you encounter things like that. Like you said, you're up at the highest level, you know, meeting Dana and all them. So, yeah, I can only imagine to be a thing of being starstruck.
For sure. So that was that, and then, but I mean, ever since that, you know, the fight after that was a controversial fight. Thought it was mine. I don't hang my head on it because I knew it was mine, and everybody else in the arena knew it was mine. So I kind of gave it to him. It was just. He retired after that. It is what it is. Yeah, circumstantial shit. It is what it is, bro.
Sympathy farewell, I guess. So.
Yeah, you know, it's happened a couple times, but you know, it was just being on that level again. That's where I belong. You know, since then I came back, and my last fight was in October, and I smashed him. 3 rounds, carried him across the cage, had my way with back on top where I should be. So it's a roller coaster. You never know. It's an unforgiving game. It's ruthless, man. You know, you could be doing so well, and then all of a sudden, one fight down, and it's this sport.
And that's kind of how people is. They always remember you for your last fight. They try to write off everything you've done before, and they write you off. Luckily.
It's MMA math, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They only do MMA
but,
math.
I mean, you can put equations together. Just the reality is not the actual answer of what your equation should be.
So. Yep. So. To answer your question, the call's next.
Yeah.
I go out and shut him in the first round. I'm getting that call.
Yeah,
and that's that.
And you can put a stamp on it, and I can't wait to see it happen.
Yep.
You mentioned being around in the game 15 so years. That's a long time to be in the game. I gotta ask, first, what got you into fighting initially, and how have you been able to withstand? You know, it's not a sport that is always easy on you. How have you been able to stay motivated and focused and driven to withstand 15 years, so to say?
You know, you could take a look at me, bro, if I pop my shirt off and know the life I came from. I went to Perrysburg High School. I wrestled since I was old enough to crawl. Literally, my parents just rolled me on the mat and just let me crawl around, and I fell in love with wrestling. I was in season. I was a straight C, and then I got back out and I'm DNFs. All I cared about was wrestling. So I'll put it out there, I don't care. My senior year, we're getting ready to go into the leagues. And, you know, I was locked in. I come in, check my weight. The coach's room is like this, like here's the locker room and there's glass. So all the coaches can see in our locker. I go in the locker room, they're like, Antonio, what's the damage? And I was like, 5. They're like, you're lying, get back in there. So they made me walk out, step on the scale, and I was 5 out. Normally I'm 15 to 20 back in wrestling days. And They're all like in the locker room. And he's no longer a coach there. Now he's actually a CAD teacher, but he was one of the old school coaches. Me and him didn't always see eye to eye. My head coaches were the Booker brothers from Ohio State. And the assistant coach, Mr. Rooney, he was like, what'd you do differently? How'd you handle it? And I was like, well, I really couldn't find nothing else in my game to make better, and this was the only thing to make better. So he was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy you a steak dinner after this. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking about wrestling in college too. And they all kind of just chuckled. And he said something along the lines of, Antonio, you can't even get a C in my class. How are you gonna wrestle in college? And it was at that point where I was just like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Let's just go lock in. And we left. That weekend, I went into the league finals. I did a backflip and smash dude. The following weekend, I went to sectionals. I became a sectional champ. The following weekend, I went in and upset it at Menor Districts out in Cleveland and upsetted the number 3 guy ranked in the state, John Pycraft from Elyria, and became a district champ. And then I went on to place in the D1 state tournament. Then it all stopped. I didn't have nothing to do afterwards. My high school career was done, and like he said, how are you going to wrestle in college if you can't get a C in my class? I didn't know, so I went through about a year and a half of living this life, thugging and in the streets, and I was starting to choose that route. Ended up doing a little time, going to prison, when I did 11 months. Short time, but when I got there, it was like I was at home. I fell into the lifestyle, shaved my head, got tatted up, and I was ready to stay there forever. And I didn't talk to him much. I wasn't friends with him or anything. And he just was around, and he came to me like 6 days before I got out. He's like, hey man, like I hear you talking and I see you in here and you're doing some things in here, like you're ready to stay here forever. I said, I'm not going home. I don't want to go home. I love it in here. I get respected for what I do. I changed this entire compound. And listen, everybody knows that if you go to prison, this is race wars in there. The Mexicans in there were so united because I got them away from doing all the bullshit and just living life right. You could look at it as that's not accomplishments, but when you're in that atmosphere, it is. When he said that to me, I kind of just shrugged it off. As the days got by, I'm like 3 days ready to get out. I'm looking for a way to crash out and stay there. And he came to me again and he said the same thing. And it just sat on me. And I said, you know what, you're right. So I got out, and within a week, I signed up for one more fight. Went there and finished my amateur career at 15-0, turned pro, and I went 2-4. That's not what I was as an amateur. I was undefeated as an amateur. So I called my wife now, Nicole Long at the time. She's obviously my wife now, so she got my last name. Called her and I said, hey, you said I can make it, but like, what do I gotta do to make it? She said 3 things. You gotta drop to 45 because you're too small now for 55. You gotta get into a real gym and you gotta move. I said, I can drop to 45, I can get into a gym, but why I gotta move? She's like, you have to exit yourself from the atmosphere that you're in. Otherwise, you'll always be that person. When she told me that, I made the move. I did not wait. I waited 2 days. That's it. And I wasn't gonna disrespect her words and not go out and do something that somebody who's been in the game for that long tell me that I can make it, and that's all I had to do. So I had a little meeting with my mom and my dad and my grandpa, who's been my #1 supporter, and I said, hey, I don't know what this entails. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I feel like I have to do this. You guys have my back to make sure that my girls are always taken care of out here. Obviously, they have a great mom that has supported them and taken care of them their whole life, but on my end, I couldn't leave without that. And they said, don't worry about it, you need to go. So I went, and I've been out there for 13 years, been married for almost 12 now. I haven't looked back. Like you said, I've been on the UFC Fight Pass 7 times, fought. My jacket has got names out this world. I really should have fought all those guys in the UFC. Rather than fought them to get them to the UFC. So it's been a long journey, but I feel like maturity comes at a time that you can't force it. I'm faithful. And when I dug into the Bible and dug into my faith, he assured me he's got my back, and the time will come when it's ready. The time's now, bro. The longevity goes to my faith. I haven't always been the most faithful, and I really just got all the headspace correct now to where I trust in that book and his way, and I trust in my wife to set me up to walk through. This is the best headspace I've ever been in my entire career. The camp went well because of that. I didn't nitpick on the little things. I just moved on to the next day. If I didn't get it this night, I had to get it the next morning. And if I didn't accomplish what I did on this day, it was done the very next day. I didn't wait. And then 2 weeks, and then you don't have no more time. Eventually, you're going to get to the point to where I'm going to be like, hey, can I still? No, dude, the window's closed. There's a shelf life to sports, and I'm right there. But I feel though my headspace is the best it's ever been, and my body's intact. I've taken care of my body really well. My weight cuts are going the best they ever have because of how in tune I am with my body now. I'm much more mature to be able to drink the water and eat the right stuff rather than just cut it all at once.
Right.
So 4 pounds out the day before, we're about to go to the high school and smash this little 4 pounds out and walk in the weigh-ins and come home and eat tonight and drink tomorrow.
Right.
So it's not by accident, bro. There's two things. Nothing's on accident, and he's never late. He'll get me on my times now. It could have been any of those times before along this road. Any one of those top guys could have just set me into the UFC with one carry the ball. Don't carry it out here. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't my time. It's on his time. He'll put you in there when you're ready. So I feel like he's ready to put me in the game, and I'm ready to go.
But when the time's right, time's definitely right. You're most definitely surrounded with great teams. The tools are all in line. I've been seeing you put in the work, so I don't see why the result wouldn't show itself. So Tony, appreciate you, brother.
No, for sure, man. And like I said, man, thank you for this, because this is the one thing that I haven't gotten my entire career. I never had the lights, camera, action outside of on Showtime. So to have somebody come here and get my story, and you know, everybody sees the fight night. They don't see the grind before the fight night. They don't see crying in the sauna. Like, I was there this morning and I'm fully hydrated, but it's hot and tears are rolling down. I'm on FaceTime with my daughter. I was like, listen, you don't cry unless you love it. So figure it out, because your window will close. My daughter's a star rugby player, dude. She's playing rugby. Like, if now my son's like, I want to play rugby, I said, no, dude, you need to get like 200 pounds on you before you can play rugby. So, no, man, it's just been a journey. I really appreciate you for coming through and capturing it all for me, because you don't know when it's going to be over. You just ride until the horse breaks, bro.
Right.
And then you get off and walk. The sun will kill you. So, like I said, bro, I
Appreciate
really
you,
do
brother.
appreciate it. For real,
Absolutely.
Much love.
It's been a ride, man, and I look forward to keeping it going, man.
Hell yeah.